Really going all out here. This may be my 8th or ninth video review. The first time when my mom and I rented Tales from the Hood on video, because it wasn't available on DVD yet. As crazy as this may sound, and I was kind of naive even then, so once again, try not to jump the gun here. For some weird reason, I was under the impression that it was going to be comedic. In other words, a comedy. Let's just say, at the time when I first tried to watch it with my mom, I was dead wrong. Not literally, but I was wrong. I was way, way wrong. The excessive vulgarity made my mom angry, to say the least. And the freakiness of the violence freaked me out to the point to where we didn't get through the first 2 stories. In fact, we ended up turning it off and never finishing it. That having been said, I've recently watched it several times. I've even purchased it from a certain website, even though it's out of print. And I gotta be honest with you, with what the creators of this movie came up with, this movie is somewhat ahead of its time too, and it definitely has a social commentary underneath the terror. And some would find this not that scary, some would find it absolutely terrifying. It depends on your point of view, once again. Do I think that this is an African-American version of Tales from the Crypt? I don't think so. There's a lot more underneath the terror than just the terror. There's a lot to this movie. But you have to watch it very, very analytically, as I quite often do anyway. And there's something about the way, because yeah, the storylines are, whether they've all been redone or not, is irrelevant to me, because the social commentary makes up for some of the cliches of the overly done storylines. And yes, we do have, most of the characters are African American, and I am not racist by any means. I don't think you have to be black to be idiotic or stupid or cruel. I think when it comes to human stupidity, skin color doesn't amount to anything, and neither does gender. I've seen that too. On that note, I do think that this movie has not gotten the credit that it's deserved or even earned, and therefore I think it does need a re-release with the picture restored and everything like that. I have the only release that it ever got on DVD. But if it gets released on DVD a second time, well, I guess we'll have to see. Most of the actors most of the actors in this movie I did not know very much about until after seeing this movie. There's Wings Hauser, there's Clarence Williams III, there's David Alan Grier, there's Rosaline Cash, who plays in the last story. As much as I hate to admit it, that's one of the freaky stories out there, of all 4 of them, because of the way it's done. And I was impressed with the way it was done, but it was still pretty freaky. I don't think that this movie is ahead of its time. Actually, in some ways, I do think it's ahead of its time. But the way they covered it, I don't know. Apparently, no one had seen it like this before. And I commend Spike Lee for writing it, or executive producing it. But to be honest with you, I have not seen any other of his movies, but I have heard that he does use a lot of the F word and the MF word And this movie is not that much different. I was able to overlook most of the language because the language did not take a backseat to the storyline. I did find some of the language a little bit gratuitous, especially in the first story. The first story, I think, has the most language to top it all off. And then, of course, there's the prologue before the story starts. And as for Clarence Williams III, who plays the weird mortician, let's just say, even if you're seeing stories like this, you may not see his little surprise coming. And then again, you may. I don't know for sure. All I know is the first time I saw it all the way through, I'm like, wow. I did not see that coming. But after watching the movie a few times, I started to wonder exactly what the mortician's role in the movie really was. And to say the least, I was kind of surprised. But in a good way. On that note, if you haven't already, check it out. It is really, really good for any horror fan. You don't have to be, in my opinion, you don't have to be African American to appreciate this movie. Because if you faced any kind of prejudice, whether it's sexual orientation, whether it's different religion, I mean, you name it, this movie, in its own way, symbolizes that as well. And I was impressed with that. On that note, like I said, check it out. You may be surprised, because I certainly was. After finally letting go of my biases towards it when I was younger, at 15, I finally gave it another chance, and I like it a lot. Weirdly enough. If that tells you anything. On that note, once again, take care and check it out.